Hey guys, it's Dave. Welcome back to another video. If you're new to the channel, I hope you enjoy. If you're returning, thanks for continuing to view and subscribe. I appreciate it a lot. Today is more of a casual video for me. Not a, sometimes we do the huge deep dives with a ton of research. We open up the spreadsheets, we look at the data, the charts, etc. Sometimes I just feel like chatting with you guys, In real life, I find a lot of the people I know are not actually that interested in investing, unfortunately. And then, of course, there seems to be a big taboo or like hush hush, don't talk about your money, don't tell people how much money you have or what you're invested in. So I don't get too much of that in real life. That's one of the reasons I started the channel, actually, really just to hang out with you guys, have some fun talks about stocks, discuss things. YouTube doesn't give quite as much of a back and forth as I would like, but I do appreciate you guys in the comments, absolutely, especially the regulars who comment more frequently. You guys definitely know who you are, so thanks for that. Yeah, and it's just like kind of an outlet for me to chat about stocks to someone. Most people I find, if I'm out with friends, what's new with you? And I'm like, oh, this company sounds interesting. I know their eyes will just glaze over. They'll just not be interested. So nice to meet some people of like mind out here and just talk about investing. So that being said, I do have some charts and stuff I'd like to show you as I just chat, and I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments as well. Let's hop over to the discussion. So, as I mentioned, that I think is an important data point to watch closely, the CPI reports for June just came out on Wednesday, and the inflation rose 9.1% overall, which was more than expected. Just a bit more data on this. The consumer price index increased 9.1% from a year ago in June, above the 8.8% number that was estimated. Core CPI, which excludes food and energy, rose 5.9% compared with 5.7% estimated, and costs are surging, as we know. I'm sure we've all experienced it for gasoline, groceries, rent, daycare, basically everything. And adjusted for inflation, workers' hourly wages fell 1% during the month and are down 3.6% from a year ago. So these numbers really do move the overall markets in a big way, and they came in higher than expected, which wasn't great for the overall markets. Just a bit more data on that. I don't want to get into too much detail droning on about it, but yeah, energy prices are up 7.5% on the month and 41.6% on the year, which is huge. I mean, I know I see it here every time I fill up the car. Food increased 1%, shelter increased, rent is only up 0.8%. Yeah, so inflation, not great. We all know it. We all notice it. Not fun times. And how are the markets been reacting? Well, we've kind of had a few rough months of CPI data to look back on and see what happens here. So it wasn't a huge surprise, but back in May 11th, we got the CPI data for April. So if we look at May 11th around here, it seems like this is a common trend where the market reacts okay and it takes it in stride, and then all of a sudden it drops a little bit. And then same kind of thing, June 10th back here. So it seemed okay, and then we dropped a bit. And then, of course, we have June 13th, so it seemed okay for a little bit, and then we've dropped now a little bit today. I wouldn't be surprised if we drop again for the next few days, but I never try to predict the overall markets too accurately. It's really difficult. And the only reason I'm kind of watching this is I really want to buy some Rocket Lab as low as I can. So if I think it might go lower, maybe I'll hold off on buying more. Spoiler alert, I did buy a little bit today. Let me know if you guys are adding any more as well. Interested to hear, as always. So I bought a little bit today, hoping it'll drop down to, 3.7, 3.6. Then I can add some more at even lower levels, hopefully. But if it's a company I really like, I don't like to get too cute with it and try to time it perfectly at the very lowest moment, because then it might just run away from you and you don't get into a company you want. And then you're like, maybe it'll drop back down, and it never does. And then you're just kicking yourself for not getting into it when you could over a matter of a few cents per share. So it's kind of my thoughts right now as I look at the overall market. We have, this week to look at now. CPI data comes out. Pre-market, it kind of dropped a bit. It came back the same day and was fine. And then the next day it was pretty fine. And then we have this big drop again, although it did come back a bit towards the end of the day. So we'll see how it goes over the next few days. Maybe it'll drop a bit more. Maybe this is the bottom. What do you guys think? Is the bottom in for Rocket Lab at about 3.7? Do you think it could drop even further, even like the low threes maybe? Really interested to hear your thoughts and reasoning behind it. Always enjoy the discussion. So, looking at Rocket Lab, of course, it tends to follow the markets. It had bounced back up to the fours. Now we hit 3.9 again. I did say I kind of wanted to add some more in the threes. So I did do that today. Obviously, a lot of this was driven by the macro markets. Can be frustrating when you're a shareholder in a specific stock and you're like, the company's doing everything they should do. Why are they down just because of some data completely out of their control, unrelated? That's kind of just how it goes with the markets. You find more and more. It's like the tide in the oceans. Like it'll, all ships will raise and lower with the tide regardless of what they're doing on the boat. So we're at a low tide right now. It's going to drag down all our ships, if you will, regardless. Just a tough time. It happens. We always get through it. On a personal note here, I just wanted to talk about my own accounts. Extremely painful, as we can see on a 1-year basis, down 37.5%. This is just my main account. I do have a retirement account that's a bit separate and has a lot more safe stuff that has been quite stable. But the main account, 1-year change, down, we're talking almost 50% here, right? And these numbers are not small, at least to me. Maybe to some of you out there it's small, but when I see this kind of loss, it's like, oh my God, it's so painful. Especially for some people that's a house. Unfortunately, not where I live. Real estate is insane, but definitely it's not nothing for sure. These are Canadian dollars, not American, so maybe not quite as high value, but to me it means a lot. So painful to see. And how do we deal with this in these tough market conditions? I kind of zoom out and look at it a bit more closely. For example, now we're looking at kind of 2.5 years, and we can see I peaked honestly, it was around, in this account, about 820 I peaked Canadian. Plus I had some money in the retirement account, so I was starting to get excited, maybe I'll hit $1 million. Oh my God, this is so exciting. And then of course we dropped back down to 450. So extremely painful couple years, obviously. But when we zoom out, let's look at this here. A couple years ago, I was at 450K. I'm the blue line, by the way, and the green is the S&P, which is kind of like an index you can track yourself against. So bull markets, everything's going great. I'm investing in big growth companies mostly, and I'm vastly outperforming the S&P 500. These are amazing returns. Probably got a little carried away. Probably did make some mistakes, I have to admit. Not investing as much as I should, not researching as much as I should, but things went great. And what I tend to find is these high growth stocks severely outperform in the good times and they severely underperform in the bad times. So then we hit the bad times, we severely underperform the S&P 500, and what do you know? We're almost exactly back in line with the S&P 500. So it's not the end of the world. We're in line with the S&P 500, which is usually a safe index of 500 companies you can hold and not worry too much. So it's not like it's been a disaster investing on our own by any means. Definitely been a rough couple years, but everything is okay. That's what I'm telling myself here, and telling you guys too. I do think we're getting closer to the bottom of these down markets. I kind of feel like maybe Q4 things will be bouncing back well, but it's so hard to say with these macro overall markets. What I can say though is I do think the good times will come again when it comes to the markets, and when they do, the companies I hold will outperform again. So we should have, we should have some good returns again in the future. It's just rough times, but it always happens with the stock market. There's no avoiding it. I could try to sell here in case it goes lower, and then maybe it bounces, and I'm like, well, maybe this is just a bear market bounce, like this little one where it goes back down, or this little one, then it goes back down. So I don't get back in, and then maybe it keeps going, and I'm like, oh, maybe it'll drop again, and it doesn't. And the next thing I know, like, I've missed the bounce. That's not what you want. So that's why I am just staying in all my companies which I believe in, and I think that's the best course of action, really. Zooming out on the S&P 500, you can see, the bad times come. They're usually followed by very good times. So 2008, we have a crash. Like, this is one of the best runs we've ever had in the stock market, a historically great bull market from, call it 2009 to 2018. We have another crash here, 2018. It was rough, obviously, for us. When you zoom in at the time, this V may not look that big, but when you zoom in, it was rough. And we have like a great bounce back. We have COVID. We had a great bounce back. And now, obviously, this looks like a big drop, and it is, but, we could see another one of these V shapes. So not going to sell. Definitely not going to go into cash like some people are talking about. And I think I just wait it out. That's my strategy anyway. In other news, I bought more Rocket Lab stock today, as I said. Obviously, I've mentioned before, I don't have a ton of cash right now, so I had to sell something. But this kind of feeds into my previous video where I talked about owning too many companies and not being able to keep track of them. So I sold my Corsair Gaming, and I'm completely out of Corsair. This allows me to add more to Rocket Lab, which I'm more confident in and, basically know more about. But also I'm starting to be able to simplify my portfolio a bit more, which I want to do, and really know all my companies to a very deep level. So we now have a total of 22,800 invested in Rocket Lab. That's almost 5,000 shares. The current value is about 19,600. So yeah, we're down about 3,000. Not too bad, really, considering the state of the company. It's down from $20 to $3. So, we've done fine in this type of market. This is where I really want to buy where I can. So my average price is $4.56 per share. I'm pretty happy with this price. I think it's great value. But as I said, if we drop down to 3.7, 3.5, I'm happy to buy more. Really thinking about it, it's kind of tough to balance. How much should I buy? What do I need money for in the future? Maybe I need money for a down payment within 5 years, so I don't want to put all the money in a stock where I might need to leave it in at least 5 years. It's really tough. 5-year goal, $15 to $30 per share, I think is pretty achievable, especially the $15 end. But, who knows? I think anything's possible with Peter Beck and the team. So then that 22 would turn into 75 to 150, which would be extremely exciting, obviously. You can see I'm completely open with all these numbers. I just think, how do you learn if you can't talk to other people about what they're doing and the real numbers and the real money? Like, we could have two guys who are best friends at work and have the exact same salary. One of them is really good with investing and saving and is like extremely wealthy, and the other one is not and doesn't even realize that he's living paycheck to paycheck and doesn't have to do that. If these two guys would just talk openly about their money, maybe the other one could learn about investing, what to do differently, and make a big difference to his life and his financial situation. So I'm big about talking openly about these things. Hopefully you'll let me know down in the comments, how many shares of Rocket Lab do you have? Are you adding more? Do you think we're near the bottom? Do you think we'll drop lower? And how do you feel about the overall markets today? Do you think we're in for some more rough months ahead, or are we towards the bottom of this rough period? Always enjoy the discussion, guys, and I'll talk to you next time. See ya. Bye. By the way, guys, this is Teddy. Maybe you've seen him in a few of the videos, heard his barking. He's a rambunctious guy. Say hi, Teddy. Say hi. All right, see you later.